Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second round of action at the US Championships 2022. This tournament is always very exciting with a lot of top-level players, but it's particularly exciting this time around because Hans Niemann is playing over the board once again. In fact, he is winning the tournament after one round with 1 point out of 1. Naturally, right? Because you have a perfect score. Now, today I'm going to take you through some of the games. As always, I'm going to show you some games from the women's side. I'm going to show you some games from the open side. And also, if you happen to be watching this video in the first like 30 minutes that it comes out, the last hour of the launch sale of my new courses platform is going on. So everything is 33% off. Link is in the description. And if you don't watch it before 10 p.m. Eastern time, well, then no worries. You're still going to get a very good recap. And at the end, you're going to get a very good clip. Now, friendly reminder, this is an evening recap, which means that my energy is goofy and we are going to have a lot of fun, but we're also going to have a lot of chess. I have a very large audience, so not all of you are happy with my recaps when I'm very energetic. I can't please all of you. If you're ever offended by one of my videos, just remember that life is much more than being offended by a YouTube video, so just try to stay generally positive, which is a New Yorker's way of saying get out of my face. D4 in the game between Alice Lee, the youngest participant of the tournament. She is 12 or 13 years old, and she's going up against Gulrukh Begim Tokhirjonova. I believe that she goes by Begim, but I'm not sure. She has a Mongolian name, if I'm not mistaken, but she is recently playing for the US, I think the last few years. Now, from the opening, you wouldn't think we would get that exciting of a game because we get a queenless middle game. This is so boring. Just send me home. Well, I am home. All right, I don't know. Send me somewhere. But what we're about to see is a complex middle game. Queenless middle game. A3. How do you know it's a middle game when more than half the pieces are still on the board? I would say it's more of a middle game. All right. B4. Now, believe it or not, the move A6 is a massive inaccuracy by black. Isn't that crazy? The engine thinks this position is 0.2. The engine thinks this position very slowly is going to become like 0.6, 0.7. In fact, like if you let the engine run and you just like slide the bishop back like to B6, look at the advantage. It's like shocking, right? Why is that? Well, apparently all the way back here, like the meta strategy of the position is to go B6. Like the computer thinks that A6 is unnecessary because the bishop is not going back this way, which is really interesting, right? Because normally you play A6 to play the bishop back this way, but you still go here. So it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just fascinating, like little meta strategies like this. So white just develops black castles, and, you know, white goes bishop F1. Like the craziest thing about this is bishop F1 is the best move. Undeveloping her piece to the home square. Why? Because she's going to put the knight on C4. The idea is now to go knight b6. You see what you did to yourself? You see, if this pawn was here, you wouldn't have these problems. You would have other problems like b5, but maybe you could play b5 yourself. But because you can't do this now, right, the knight would go in here. So black is now very passive, right? And look at Alice Lee just very surgically putting her horses on that side of the board. Black plays king f8, just sort of a move that doesn't do anything. Like black is just basically awaiting white's arrival on the shores, right? Knight d5 looking for a knight trade. And we have take, and now the bishop comes back with intentions to go here, not here, here. And there's another intention, and it's not to take on h7. Like, just so you understand, black goes d. Like, you're not doing this, all right? Because I will trade, and at the end of this, I will just trap your bishop. That's not what you want. Don't get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, just in life and also in chess. So, knight c6 played, black takes on d3, and we get the following position. A dead draw. Dead draw. Like, it's dead. The players can shake hands and go home. And they're actually going home. They're not home. They play these games in, I think, some place in the St. Louis Chess Club. Or maybe it's like around there. Rook c8. But Alice Lee doesn't want to go home. She wants to play chess. Now, apparently black is better. So this is fascinating. She sacrificed a pawn. Just a full pawn in an endgame. Her idea was to go b5 and clear out this space. And after this, to go b6. Very engine-like idea. Like, just... you can't say things like that anymore, all right? We used to be able to be like, wow, it's a very engine-like idea, sacking a pawn with activity. But, like, that's like a compliment. But now you're just going to think everyone's suspicious because of recent chess developments. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a very cool idea here by white to sack a pawn and try to get activity and lock down the black position. And black is just not taking. So, like, Alice is just giving away this pawn. Like, she could play a4. She's like, no, I'm not gonna, you can take my pawn. I want to go b5, b6. That's crazy, right? Black's like, I'm not taking your pawn. All right, we're repeating moves. Black is still not taking the pawn. Black's still not taking the pawn. Black's just not doing it. King f2, now she's going to bring her king. Black is still not taking the pawn. And is actually getting really restricted in the process. Like, Black has sort of made every move and still cannot take the pawn now because of the move bishop f8. Threatening this and both rooks down to that square, just like simultaneously. Both of those rooks down to that square is mate. But if you play b6, I can still go here. That's the most, look at this mate. What, like, what? So suddenly Black's like, wait a minute, I got no moves. Now comes bishop f8 anyway. The Black king is in a mating net. The Black king goes to the middle. Black covers up, takes, and just rook c7. And there's just no way to guard this bishop. Alice Lee just played like Magnus Carlsen to just grab a massive advantage in this game, grind out a dead equal endgame, win a piece, and now she just has to bring back her bishop. She does, and she just has an extra piece. A full extra piece, no questions asked. By the way, that pawn has still survived. That pawn is like a cat with like 37 lives. And finally, we get this trade. And this is just a totally winning endgame because the pawns just can't move. So the king is going to walk over here or, you know, be a little bit more active. Yep. And there's just no way. Black is going to run out of moves. That's just what happens. And Black resigns. Alice Lee is 2 for 2. Youngest player in the field. It's not even close. I think like the second youngest player might be like, I don't know, 15, 16. She's like 12 or 13. It's just incredible. She's like 2,300. Yeah. I mean, hopefully she becomes an IM and a GM and... all the best to her. I don't want to jinx her, but so far she's made it into 2 Gotham recaps. Listen, you know, you can write that on your college essay. You'd be like, all right, some of you applying, you know, like, yeah, you know, I watched a lot of Gotham Chess. Yeah, I'm actually famous. You know, my Guess the Elo video has 800,000 views of me losing seven queens, 2 rooks, 4 chickens, and a cow, you know. Anyway, I think you know who these players are. We have Jeffrey Zhang with the black pieces and Hans Niemann with the white pieces. Now, you might be wondering why I haven't put a timestamp in this video. I decided to not put a timestamp right now. I'm actually not going to be putting a timestamp because sometimes I want to keep you on your toes. Sometimes you guys skip around. You're like, I skipped to the game. Today, the Hans game is not at the end. Today, it's in the middle. I'm going to keep doing this. All right, Hans begins against Jeffrey Zhang with the move e4. Jeffrey doesn't play e5. Jeffrey doesn't play c5. He plays the French. When you play the French with black, you play to win because you play to lose. I just hope you understand. You don't play the French defense to make a draw. You can make a draw like 38,000 different ways. Jeffrey Zhang plays a French. Hans plays the classical French, the main line. Knight f6, e5, and this is just the way white plays, knight f3, knight c6. This position has been reached just millions of times probably overall. And now there's a lot of theory here. Black can play bishop e7. Black can play cd4 in various lines with the bishop going to c5. Black can play a6, b5. Black can play b6, bishop b7. Black can play a lot of different things. Black has queen b6, asap lines. He takes and does this. So the idea is to pressure this and pressure this. White plays a3, which actually prevents the capture of b2 because it covers that square, and now the queen is trapped. Completely trapped. It cannot go back. So a3 is a move. Black plays bishop c5. And then here, Hans, instead of playing knight a4, plays knight cb5. We have a trade. We have another trade, and Hans plays queen d4, okay, just activating his pieces. This position has been reached a few times. The point is that black wants to break at the center with the move f6. There it is. Hans does not want to take and activate the rook. He wants to develop and castle one way or another, so he develops his bishop. Yes, even that slight movement is development, because the bishop is going to get involved in the game, and the rook's going to come to the center, right? Black takes, and now develops his own bishop. The knight gallops in triumphantly to d6, from where it stands very comfortably. And now Hans is ready to go long castle. And white is better here because of the activity of the knight, because of the weakness, potentially, of these pawns. For example, the bishop will always be able to go here and just sort of permanently stare at that pawn. So Hans has a bit more space, bit better activity, and Jeffrey's going to have to fight back. This is what I meant. Like, when you play the French, you play to win, but you play to lose. So bishop a4. Hans plays b3, kicking out the bishop. But basically, Jeffrey's like, well, I made you commit your pawns, right? Yeah, to where? b4. Now I want the knight to go too. Hans just didn't like the bishop there. He doesn't like the knight there either. So the knight moves. We have a queen trade and a knight trade. And at the end of the day, look what happened to Jeffrey's pawns. Just totally scattered all over the board. Jeffrey is much worse. Jeffrey's lost. Bishop c4. And now Jeffrey has an option. Play the position passively with a move like bishop f7, which is just so ugly. I mean, those bishops are not the same. They're just not. Or king h8. Inviting in the capture of the pawn. And then just nothing. Just, it's not a check, so black gets to make a move. Now, here the computer is such a scumbag. It's like, actually, king h8 is a really stupid move because I'm going to go rook f1, and then I'm going to trade rooks, and I'm not even going to take this. The computer literally wants to get to this position where the king is in the corner, and this is a permanent weakness, and this is a weakness, and then the d file is also a weakness. And the computer just thinks this is a totally winning endgame for white. This is actually completely nuts. Like, Hans is literally about to have 2 points out of 2 with 2 clean wins. It's not, it's ridiculous. But he grabs the pawn, all right? He plays, you know, he takes the pawn, and then he castles long, and Jeffrey plays e3. Position's +2. Hans plays rook f1. He's still looking for that. It's a very flashy move, by the way. Look at this. e2. You have rook f8, rook f8, rook e1. And if this... King d2, just in time, saving the day. All right. g6. And now in this position, Hans has to find rook f6. Idea being that these two pieces together paralyze the black king forever. The king cannot get into the game. The pawn will promote. White will win. And if king g7, then you bring the second rook and you continue. And if e2 here, very tricky move, you can take on f8 and do the same thing and come back to e1. So Hans doesn't do that. He plays instead bishop back to g4, but this allows Jeffrey very quickly to grab this pawn. And Hans loses his advantage. And I guess what Hans thought after rook e8 was that he was going to go e6. But actually, there's h5 here, and you either choose between your pawn or getting your rooks forked. You cannot stay on the same spot anymore, and you're in serious trouble. Again, maybe Hans thought that after rook e6, he would have some play, like bishop takes b7, but there's some stuff here, like rook c8. Oops, not that move. Rook c8 attacking this. So Hans doesn't find it, and instead of that, Jeffrey is able to very quickly grab the pawn, consolidate, and get back into the game, and it's just a dead draw. Jeffrey was under pressure for about 30 moves. He played the French to win. He played the French to lose, but ultimately he played the French to make a draw. An exciting game, and Hans was honestly very close to 2 out of 2. Just one incorrect bishop retreat, and we're having a completely different conversation. No, the bishop retreat did happen, but we could have been having a totally different conversation. By the way, are you still watching this video? The sale is about to run out. But sales out in like 30 minutes, don't worry. But seriously, if you ever got any of my courses, like I keep saying this, but if you've got any of my courses on the old platform, migrate them to the new one. It's free of charge. I just gave you a ton more features for the same exact price. I'm just saying. Like, I'm just saying. I should get the logo on the screen. Now, this game, Elshan Moradiabadi versus Awonder Liang. This one was a Zaitsev system of the Rui Lopez, in case you need that for your next trivia night at your local bar. How many of your local pubs or local bars or local kind of hangouts for teenagers, adults, whatever, how many of them have started playing chess? I feel like that's like a huge thing right now. Like chess, grab a beer, grab some food. Like, I feel like a lot of places like that, like just meet once a week. A lot of those in New York. I always get invites. People are like, yo, come here, play here. And I'm just like, maybe, but I prefer to sit at home with my wife. Not my dog, he's annoying, but my wife. You want to know something Benji did today? I'm going to just tell you, just like real quick. I went upstairs for a very important phone call for 10 minutes. The dog was outside. 10 minutes later, the phone call ended. You know what I realized? I hadn't wrapped up my sandwich. While I was gone, my dog had come back from outside and ate half of a hero. He ate this much of a sandwich. It had all the stuff in it that he shouldn't eat, and we panicked. We had to take him to the vet. They had to like induce vomiting, and he barfed. You don't have to know that, but yeah, it was gross. Don't get an animal. It's awful. I mean, it's great, but it's awful. Oh my God, it's such an experience. Anyway, that story is done. So this game was super complicated. By move 14, we got a brand new game. This has never happened before. White is trying to put his knife on f5, and Awonder Liang is trying to ask the arbiter why his opponent is carrying a knife, because he was supposed to, you know, it doesn't vibrate. So Awonder sacrificed the pawn. Instant replay. He played the move c4, and he just sacked the pawn. He did it to be active, but then the game became super sharp. So black has 2 bishops. White has, like, literally, like, 2 bishops versus 2 knights. But white, and he's able to grab a pawn, white has a pawn. Like, even all this, all that, it's bishop versus knight, but look at the position. Black has 3 pawns on dark squares, which means that the light squares are juicy. And B and A pawns are walking down the board. So this is actually a very problematic position for a wonder. A wonder is now under the pressure of a queen trade. Will he trade queens? No. But now white plays b4. And the transpirings of this position, I might have just invented a word, just leave white with a totally dominant queen side. So here's white's game plan. Me push, me push. Me win. A wonder's game plan is, wait a minute, isn't this a free pawn near your king? Yeah, but then I force a queen trade. Nah, you don't force a queen trade. No, I force a queen trade. And then I'm also going to win this pawn probably. So, oh, but I guess there's there's queen d2. Maybe there's just king g2 and rook h1. Yeah, king g2, rook h1 is much stronger. Anyway, a wonder plays e4, offering another pawn for sacrifice to open up the position. Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to take it. No, I'll take like this, and you can take this. That's great. Rook e3 is a fork. Oh, you think, yeah, I was forking your bishop and your queen, but a wonder sacks the queen like this. Now, here's the problem, okay? What is the material imbalance here? It's 2 rooks for a queen, right? A lot of you ask that question. Levy, are 2 rooks better than a queen? Are they worse than a queen? So it depends, right? Depends on the position. So that is always the answer. Like, what's better, this or this? Depends on the position. In this case, the queen is much better than the 2 rooks because white has connected passed pawns on the queen side, which cannot be attacked whatsoever right now, and also a knight. A queen and a knight have the power of every piece combined. Except immortality, which I suppose the king has, and they can't en passant. Like, if a knight got en passant, that would just be GG's. But a queen and a knight have combined power. When the queen gets on the knight, like, it's done. Like, that's game over. Also, wrong website when the queen gets on the knight. But, yeah, anyway. Queen d3. Bishop f6, a6. Bishop d8, b5. h6, king g2. And white just very slowly, just makes some progress into the position. Gives a check, except the rook. Gives a check, slides the queen over. How do you get past the bishop blockade? Like this. How do you get past the blockade? Now, if you rush, you accidentally run the risk of getting into an endgame that's maybe a draw. There are some endgames in chess that, despite a massive material advantage, are a fortress. This is a fortress. There is no way for the king and the queen to break past this indestructible fortress. I mean, like, you could force an opponent into zugzwang, but it's actually funny. Yeah, this is the way a queen and a rook battle, and the rook needs support in the form of a pawn and a king. If the king was over here, this would not be a draw. So, how does white deal with this? Guy continuing making threats, and now bringing in the queen to other spots of the board and kind of poking, all right? And trying to get in and making the rook kind of go away, and still threatening a way in. Where is it? And we're gonna get there. Boom. Why is this game over? Because there is no fortress. You just lose. A7 and so on. Alshan with a big win. It's a huge win. Massive, massive win in this event. But I saved the best for last. As always, if you made it 18 minutes into this thing... By the way, can I say something? So, my whole YouTube career, I've said things like, if you made it this far in the video, or, you know, the viewer retention rate on YouTube is 50%, or something like that. And just like anything else, people just destroyed a nice thing. I say those things as like a little nugget, like I'm speaking to you. Not like, you know, YouTubers make great content, but they're yelling at the camera, like it's a show. I like to have this little moment where if you're listening right now, it's kind of like I'm speaking, like it's a one-on-one conversation. It's not that. All right, I don't want you to think like we don't exactly know each other, but you know, we're having this moment in this YouTube video and some of the others and whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is I just say those things like to catch attention. So people have taken that and turned it into a whole crazy thing. I am now getting accused. You know what I'm getting accused of? I'm insecure about viewer retention and my analytics. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. What? No, I just say things like that. Like, hey, don't click off the video. Like, that's a joke. You could do whatever you want. You have free will, or maybe you don't. That's an entirely separate argument about, you know, whether we're in a simulation or not. But guys, why do people people take things and just destroy nice things? It's like the pin of shame. The pin of shame started out as this thing to make fun as a community of people who wrote super deranged, really angry comments, like those people who you see in videos yelling at drive-thru employees because they're just lunatics. And now you guys fake write comments to get, it's such a, guys, we all ruin nice things. Anyway, and you know what's crazy? This whole little thing here, I'm trying to be funny. A lot of you are probably laughing right now, but someone's sitting there like, get on with it. Like, do you yell at your television? Hey, y'all, some of you just weird, man. I don't know what to say. Anyway, E4. Let me know in the comments if you appreciated this rant. E5. Wesley So, Christopher, woo, Genu. Chris, I don't know if you appreciate your name getting yelled out. I'm a fan. Chris and I have a rivalry like you wouldn't have ever imagined. Chris plays the Petrov. All right, Chris knows that the only way to get a good position against the 2700, 2774, by the way, is Wesley So, is to play the Petrov, the Russian defense. And they followed the game. Fabiano Caruana versus Я не помнящий. Two dudes, two podcasters. And in that game from the candidates tournament, Fabiano played the move knight h4. The main line here is the move knight c3. But Fabiano played knight h4. It was a very interesting idea. He got an interesting game. He ended up pressuring Jan, but was unable to win. Like everybody at the candidates against Jan. Not everybody got a good position. I'm saying nobody could beat him. Instead, Wesley plays c5 and queen c2. So this is a novelty. This approach has never been played in this position. Chris plays knight a6 with a3 stopping knight b4, and he retreats his bishop so it's defended, and then plays this move. So this is kind of the plan here by black. Just a giant clamp, investment in this horse in the center, and now this. So he starts firing over this way, trying to open up the king, and you know, the queen is going to come in, the rook is going to come in, and so on. I gotta tell you, visually, this position's kind of like just, I'm not saying Wesley played anything wrong. In fact, the computer likes his position, but visually, this sucks for white. As far as I'm concerned, like the rook is on the way, the bishop is going to move, the knight is going to come over this way. Like, this just looks terrible. Like, this knight just looks like, you know what I mean? This is just, I don't like it. Wesley goes back and doesn't repeat. Like, Wesley has the option to not repeat. He plays b4. And here comes Chris Yu. Here comes Chris Yu on the e file. And then here comes Christopher Yu on the f file. And Wesley blocks the attack, but suddenly comes queen h4, and the knight is just hanging. So he's just offered him this knight. And he's ready to play at, look at what happens if you take the knight. f3, rook g2, queen h2, queen down this way after pawn takes, and also f2. I meant to, by the way, queen f2 might not even like completely lose the game, but there's no reason to lose a queen in one move. Essentially, every square is under attack. So instead of that, Wesley plays knight c3. And look at this. I mean, Christopher Yu is showing no respect to his opponent. Just no respect. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I mean, Wesley's a really nice guy. You respect the players at the highest level by not respecting them at all. By trying to take their soul. Because chess at the highest level is a bunch of guys for a calendar year playing in invitational tournaments every single time. That's how it's always been. So every month they all play each other in slow games. And it's like calm and respectful and nobody wants to lose any rating. You got a guy like Christopher Yu, his first time playing in an event like this. 25-40 FIDE, all right? Yesterday, that rough game versus Hans Niemann, and my man, look at this. He is bringing his knight back around. The bishop is retreating. But suddenly, Wesley's like, wait a minute. I gotta get my king out of here, man. Chris Yu's like, nah, where are you going? Uh-oh. That was his whole idea. Christopher Yu did all this because the idea was to sacrifice on h3. The idea was to play rook h3 and make it impossible to take. So the king stepped out, but that didn't stop Chris Yu. That didn't stop Chris Yu! Queen h5. Rook f3 is on the way. Rook h1 is on the way. Wesley So is fighting for his life in this position. Now Chris Yu says, you want to repeat moves? Should have repeated moves on move 15. All right, rook e8, cutting the escape. Rook e3, rook h1. Wesley So is covering up. Like in the UFC, you got to show signs of life or else the fight is going to get stopped. Bishop c1. You can take my rook, says Christopher Yu, as the commentator hit his funny bone. Ah, that really hurt. Mother. Ow. Look at this. Bishop e3, fe3. Wesley's like, wait a minute. If I play the move rook e2, knight h5, that's it. Knight h5 and we live. Shout out to James Canty. But Wesley sacrifices his bishop with check to win this pawn. Okay, the attack is stopped, right? Wrong! The bishop is coming. Oh my goodness. And the queen is on the way. Christopher Yu is dancing circles and pumping Wesley So with the jab. No, he's not. That would be illegal. You would go to jail for that. Or Chris Yu would probably just go to juvie. And Christopher Yu ends this game with rook h2, queen g5, and knight h5. And upon seeing the incoming arrival of the knight, Wesley So resigned the game. Christopher Yu just beat a 27-74. Christopher Yu just defeated the 5th highest rated chess player in the world. In the entire world. 6th after this game. Because he lost some rating. And then afterward, Christopher Yu gave an interview. He gave a long interview. He was there for a little bit. I just like this interview. I wanted to show it to you.
Christopher, this is the biggest win of your career. How do you feel? You just took down the defending US champion with the black pieces.
I feel like it's a great redemption from yesterday, especially after seeing the interview and everything. I felt like I was kind of disrespected. And it was also kind of a...
He goes on to say it was like a wake-up call, and you know, Chris Yu basically was like, I was disrespected in the interview yesterday, and then I saw like a bunch of like Twitter lowlives being like, how was he disrespected? Because Hans basically sat down and was like, yeah, the game was so beautiful, I don't need to talk about it, it speaks for itself, and then like walked away. And like, bro, if Christopher Yu wants to be disrespected by that as a competitor, what kind of a Twitter keyboard warrior is to take that away from him? Chris Yu, you have the Gotham blessing, and on behalf of the entire community of this YouTube channel, oops, I just cleared his entire game out. All right, hopefully he forgives me. We support you, all right? We cheer for you. Chris Yu, all the best for with the rest of your games, man. Like, crazy win for him. He just beat the 5th highest rated player in the world. And I'm going to keep you posted, folks. That was today's recap. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all for round number 3. Get out of here.